Good morning, what's up? Cory, Talaska, we're back here for another vlog. Putting the car back together. Sorry if you can hear the heater's blasting right now. It's not fully out of winter yet. So today, we are continuing the assembly of the car. We have the rear end put together. Cracked open the diff, everything was good on that. Started putting our Part Shop Max rear arms in. We put fresh Part Shop Max rear bushings in. And that's because we originally ran Condor, which they worked great, had no problems, but they kind of had adjusted their own height a little bit. And in FD, there's really tight tolerance as far as like subframe height that you have to stick within. And because we have the reinforcement brackets, which are needed in the rear for reinforcement, we just have to be really conscious of that tolerance. So first thing we're gonna do is probably raise up the car, put this on the tranny jack, throw the rear end in, do some measuring, make sure we get the right shims in, and then we can continue assembling the rear end. We have WiseFab rear control arms. We'll kind of check those out. I have never really walked through those at all, but they're really sick, especially if you've worked on E36 and E46 like rear trailing arms before, trying to set rear toe, and it is super fun. So we'll go through that. Yeah, once that's together, we'll mount the dipstick, make a little bracket for it, put the intake in, and button up some wiring. And other than some exterior stuff, this car is going to be pretty close to be ready to rip. So at this point of what we're doing, we just used our motive pressure bleeder, which we've pretty much used since we've had a BMW. Just this tank, top seals, put brake fluid in here. This is a new version that's pretty cool, where it has these little quick releases on the caps. Even for our Chase Braze Master, I made our own, took an extra cap that we had and put a quick release fitting in it. Makes it super nice for bleeding brakes and clutch and everything. So we put this in the car, as you just saw in the video, both on the front and the back, because I do have like a true dual reservoir, and that pushed fluid because all the lines were empty. So now we're gonna do it manually, the old style, in a sense, and check pedal feel by all the connections are closed, all the bleeders are closed. So I'm gonna hop in the car and kind of like pump up the brakes and make sure we're gonna start at the furthest corner where the line's the longest and go all the way around the car, make sure brakes are good. Then we're gonna bleed the handbrake, which I always get confused about this, so I always reference Dr. Garage, Devin Creasy's video, and basically what he does, which works really well, I always do it, but I always look up the video, is you don't have the pressure bleeder on anything, you leave everything closed, and then you actually go to your furthest corner in the rear again, because I do run, this is for an inline handbrake. I open the bleeder in the back corner, which you'll see. Come in here, slowly push foot brake down. While holding that, slowly pull handbrake back, and then close the bleeder in the back. And then repeat that for over here. And then as needed, still pay attention to bubbles. So that's what we're all going to execute. Okay, so brakes are done. There was a day gap. We ran into some issues. The super fun, cool, like bulkhead plate that I was telling you about, Well, sometimes things don't always work out. It looked like there was some porosity around one or two of the welds, and it was very slightly seeping, so that's kind of unfortunate. So what we did is we had a couple blank plates. So kind of deep in there, you can see there's still a bulkhead plate, but this time we just actually bolted bulkheads in through the holes where before we put the weld bungs. So it's still easier because at least you can install the bulkheads out of the car and then put it in. So it wasn't too bad to install. So once we did that, then everything worked on the brakes. Clutch fought us a little bit too, but we just let the pressure bleeder sit on it for a little bit, and that seemed to pretty much solve the problem as well. So that's cool. Then the next thing that fought us was the steering column. So in FD, we have to run the factory steering column, and that's the stock tumbler, which it's gutted, so it's not going to do anything. But this little top plate was giving me trouble, so I had to take everything back apart, put it all together, and slide it back in. So we're pretty much now at the stage where I just want to put in, I pretty much buttoned up a bunch of little wiring stuff. I want to put the dash in and then the display and hook everything up. And then ideally, we're pretty much ready to go. But before I do that, this gave me hell when I took everything apart. This is notched out to fit kind of where the dash mounts, but it wasn't enough. It was really a pain in the butt. And this, you don't really see much of this anyway, so I'm basically going to take the body saw and just pretty much carve out all this. I'm still going to leave this connected, but I'm going to trim this as much as I can, so it's going to be easier to install like the display and the dash. So dash is in, display's in, buttons in, dash secure, all wiring underneath is buttoned up to dash, so hopefully I don't have to get under there for anything. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to put in our status driver seat. It's dirty, I know, don't yell at me, we will clean it. But we are going to leave the same red and white for this year. I thought about reskinning it, but it just matches the colorway for this year already, so we're going to rock with it with some new status quick latch belts, and like the cam lock ones, love those. So we're going to toss this seat in, just the driver's seat for now, so we still have accessibility to pretty much everything in the car. And then I think we're going to load the trailer for Get Ready Cory's. We put the rear bash bar on, we're going to leave kind of everything off, the rest that's not in the car now off. And then when we go back to Michigan, once Cory finishes up all this work, we'll bring a few things that we'll add on for the dyno. But other than that, there's maybe fan wiring we have to take care of, which we're probably going to take care of in Michigan. And everything else is pretty much buttoned up, so it looks like a complete bare car still, but it is done pretty much. So let's do it. And bam, just like that, after a good 20 minutes of struggling, it's so tight in between here and there. What I did figure out, so in the tight places between the seat, the best way that I kind of figured out is to swap the Allen head bolts with hex head bolts. I use like hex flange bolts, and then that's way easier to get to because you can get a wrench on the side. And then in pretty much every car, same thing with the E46, there's a little bit more room. I find it easier with how tall I am, so my seat's so low, there's no room under the seat. It's really hard to get to the hardware underneath, is to put the brackets in first, like almost tight, but there's still a little play, and then put the seat, and then put the side bolts. Obviously just be careful not to strip the side bolts out of the seat, but for me, because my seat has to be so low and so far back because I'm tall, that's what I find easiest. So we got the Sick Grip Royal with the Rad Mysteries cover, the Talaska steering wheel. Dash is in. Got our anime girls on the plastic covers. Got the very dirty status seat in. But here's the overall. I'm going to clean all the tools up off the top, but I took the rear quarters off because I'm going to start wrapping stuff while the car's at Cory's, but kind of buttoned everything up. We got the rear window on with the brackets for the roof wing, but I'm not going to put that on because I got to wrap. Got everything pretty buttoned up. Like I said, we replaced that. That's a nitrous bottle, fresh one. We just filled it. Put the rear bash bar on. We got to make some adjustments to this to help mount the rear bumper better, but we'll do that later. Rear end's all in. Put this other side window in. Inside's all cleaned up. This is all cleaned up. dashes in, put the covers on. Way less busyness in here with what we changed this year. Super stoked on that. And then my pops put in the fuel rail with our FIC injectors, hooked up all the fuel lines. He connected his piping. So pretty much we have a complete car that looks really bare, minus the hot side of the engine. So what Cory's going to be making is a new manifold to mount the new Garrett turbo and Garrett wastegate, and then he's probably going to modify the downpipe that we had and then still use the same exhaust. So here's like the package of parts that we'll bring in there. So this video spanned over a couple days. We ran into some hiccups. Even the brakes, still currently after sitting for a little bit, are not that good. So there is something that is amiss in the brake system. We've never really had that problem before. I mean, we've been running the same brakes with like new pads and stuff for the entire life of this car, like 6 years. So we're gonna figure that out, but the brakes, like there still is brakes, it's just I wouldn't want to go into competition with it. So we'll get that taken care of. I'm gonna start wrapping stuff, but we're gonna load the trailer now, but I'm gonna end the vlog here, and then we're gonna go to Michigan. So we'll start anew. But yeah, hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.